Hi everyone, what we're going to be doing in our video today is having a look at how we can actually approach this concept of explicit vocabulary teaching. So by now I'd hope that we're all familiar with this little triangle of representing the different levels of vocabulary that students are going to have to be exposed to and have a good grasp of to actually be successful in their examinations. So down at the bottom, we've got our tier 1. These are the everyday speech words that most students are probably going to be quite familiar with. Tier 2 are the high frequency words in the range of subject disciplines. So these are the kind of overlapping words, if you like, that they tend not to use in everyday speech, but will be very common, particularly in those exam settings. And then at the very top, we've got our tier 3 vocabulary. That's our subject specific. So these are the words that are pretty unique to your individual discipline, and they're highly unlikely to have encountered them just in everyday life. What we now need to do is actually come up with effective strategies to teach them this. It's all good and fine that we know there's certain tier 3 vocabulary and we know certain tier 2 vocab, but unless we've got effective ways of delivering this to the students, they're never really going to improve. So one model I'm going to share with you today is the SEEC model, S-E-E-C. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this one little step at a time and see what we actually mean by it. So the S at the beginning there stands for select. One of the key things when it comes to vocabulary teaching is selecting the right words. Now, we're not able to teach every word that students are going to come up with in a particular text because there's just not the time. So we've got to be smart about this. We need to actually, before delivering that topic, review the material and identify just a small number of target words for that explicit instruction. So the kind of questions you'd be asking yourself when you're trying to pick out those, and we're talking literally something like 4 words at most here, are these sort of questions. How difficult is the material to understand? What are the most important words to understanding the text or topic? What words are unlikely to be part of their prior knowledge? What words appear repeatedly in a topic or text? What words are interrelated and will help them know additional words? And what are the tier 2 words in that particular material? If we go through those questions, we should be able to narrow down all of those words that we've got in front of us in our resource and then be able to pick out those key ones that we're going to focus on. The E, the first E anyway, is explain. So this has a very clear structure to it. Once we've selected the words, we've got to go on to this explicit instruction and explanation of the words. So the first step here is say the word carefully. So notice those phonemes and the syllables. Help the students to understand it. Make sure that we're not dropping any letters unintentionally when we're saying it. Then, when it comes to the writing, we need to actually write that word and draw attention to the spelling as we do it. Point out any of the bits that we know they're going to mess up later on. Draw their attention to it so they don't fall into the trap. Define. This one we need to provide a student-friendly definition, something that they're going to be able to remember. Demonstrate is next, and this is where we're going to provide examples of the word in different contexts. So really look at that word and say what its role is in that particular example that you've given. And then finally the clarify. This is where we're going to ask some questions, find out that they do understand it. If they tell us something that's a little bit wafty, then make sure that we actually address those misconceptions and reframe it so they do have a good understanding. The second E is explore. Now, explore is where we're going to actually use a range of different teaching strategies to break that word down. So we're going to be looking at the etymology, for example, the word families. We're going to use things like the Freya model that we did in a previous training session, word webs, vocabulary maps, a whole range of different ways that we can unpick that word a little bit and actually get them thinking about it. What do these bits of the word mean, etc. And then finally we have the consolidate, the C at the end. This is where we're going to make sure that we don't just do a one and done. With everything in teaching, we've got to revisit it. So test them on it, make sure they've learnt it, revisit it in a few lessons' time to make sure they've grasped that concept properly. If we do this, and we do this regularly with all of those words in our specific subject areas, our students' vocabulary will increase, they will have a greater understanding of the texts and the materials and even the exam papers when they get there, and that can only benefit them in the long run.